This episode is brought to you by Mortgage Workflow Partners and the Mastering Encompass series, both for users as well as administrators. You can find out all the information about it over at masteringencompass.com. Also, if you'd like to check out what we're doing on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to the channel using the @MasteringEncompass handle, and make sure you stay up to date on all the information, not just with podcasts, but also video content that we bring to you as often as possible. Now let's get on to the episode. Have you ever looked at your user groups in your Encompass platform and thought, what would I do different today versus back whenever I first started? Or maybe you walked into your Encompass administrative settings and just have no idea what's going on with your user groups. They can be really intimidating. That's what this video is all about. I'm going to go through 7 top things that you need to keep your eyes on when it comes to your user groups. And we're going to use my testing environment here to actually talk all about that. So when we get into user groups, first thing I want to really explain is, what is a user group? It was created for Encompass to serve up resources. Now, a lot of people think resources are things like custom print forms and maybe user groups and maybe loan templates or dashboards, things like that. That's all correct, but that's not the full picture. The first thing you want to think about when it comes to user groups is actually sharing loan files. So one of the first things that we talk about is in Encompass for user groups, we want to make sure you understand what is the all users user group and what is the best practice methodology for this. Let's go in and actually look at the all users user group here on my screen. And one of the things you notice is you can't do anything with the members tab. It includes everyone that's in your company, from the top level folder down to the bottom, wherever that is. So you can never manage anything on members because it is literally all users. So what are you left to here? On the loans tab, you traditionally want to make sure that you include no loans in the all users user group and probably no loan folders. And the reason why this is because I guarantee in your workflow, somebody is not supposed to see everyone else's loans and certainly not see every loan folder that you have. Almost guaranteed for every company. So definitely best practice for all users. Go ahead and leave your loans tab empty up here and leave no loan folders checked. Now, when we get into borrower contacts, it's extraordinarily common for your Encompass environment to have this checkbox. I also recommend that you uncheck this. And the reason why is because if you read the sentence, it says borrower contacts created by this group, also known as all users, are public and viewable by superiors in the organizational hierarchy. So it's a little bit confusing in what that really means, but what it's trying to tell you is that basically anybody who creates any borrower contact in your Encompass could possibly be seen by somebody unexpected. I don't like unexpected things in my Encompass. You probably don't either. So you want to go ahead and uncheck that box, and then you'll be okay. Under the loan templates, this tab is all about everything from your loan programs straight down to your affiliated business arrangement templates. And again, it is very common for companies to have exactly what you see on screen because it's how it comes out of the box when you get it from the beginning. However, what I always suggest is go ahead and hit the black X, highlight it, hit the black X, so this is all empty. And if you haven't picked up on my methodology yet, it's because I'm not saying it out loud, so let me go ahead and make it clear. Do not give any resources unless you know exactly what you're doing to the all users user group. The reason why this is the case is because, again, not everyone in your workflow needs to see all of these resources. What would a post-closure need a loan program update for? They wouldn't, but if you have it here, they could use it in a loan file, even accidentally. Again, I'm always going to be the one who gives resources when you absolutely need it versus having you have access to something when I'm not sure that you need it. Resources tab gets a little bit deeper because here we get to see standard print forms and custom print forms. So again, is it annoying that you have to go through each one and hit the black X? Yes. The reason why I suggest that you go through these settings, each tab, is to make sure that everyone can only get to what they're supposed to. So you might feel like it's no big deal for standard print forms or custom print forms or anything else that's on here for everyone to have access to which I would probably reply, it's actually not the case. You want to go through and think about it. Now, the last one here is role list view. And this is one where, again, I do recommend that you go down to each one of your roles And you do make sure that the radio button is selected to some and that this area is blank. So as you go through each one of these roles, you can see I've got this defaulted to some and not all. And the reason why this is traditionally done this way from a scaling perspective is to make sure that you know which users see which team members that are filling those roles when they process their loans. So the very first thing I talk about is the all users user group, making sure you go in here and understand what each of these tabs does and understand best practice recommendations for how to manage them. Now, the second thing I talk about in user groups that I want you to focus in on is creating user groups that are just too general, meaning that when you look in the user group, I'll just use this one for test right now. If you look in the members, who's in that user group? Is it everyone still? Did you recreate another all users? Did you create something that is a little bit large in terms of being able to manage? Maybe some people only need access to certain resources or loan files, etc., versus others. So you want to watch for this too general aspect of a user group. Now, the third thing is making it too restrictive. So if you find that you're creating user groups just one after another, and your members are just one or two, as long as that's appropriate, great. So some good examples of this might be where you've got branches and you're delivering out resources to specific branches. Totally understandable. And although it is a little bit extra maintenance work, it certainly can be recommended for your use case. So as long as you understand it, that's great. But we want to make sure we're not creating onesies, twosies, because again, this is all about maintenance. And if you're creating onesie, twosies now, what's it going to look like in a few years? The fourth one is leveraging the user group in a way that is not really meant to be as compared to organizational hierarchy or organization/users. So there's a lot of folks that I go and I look at the organization/users and I see how they've got their information kind of set up here. And what they do is they build these structures out with the intention of having teams in this branch organizational folder, as an example, be able to see this branch. So maybe this is the sales members of branch B, and this is the operations members of branch B. Not the way that you want to live your life when it comes to Encompass. You really want to think about user groups and defining a branch B in terms of who's in this user group, and then whose loans can they see as a result of that, and do they have full edit rights? Do they have view-only rights? Those kinds of things. So when I look at best practice for user groups, I want to make sure that you understand, do not leverage your organization/users as a de facto way for loan visibility. That's not what this is really meant for at all, and it will burn you if you try to use it that way. You will absolutely end up in situations that you don't want to be in. So what you do want to do is make sure you leverage out your user groups to really serve up the loan visibility properly to the team members that need to see those loans, just in this small example. The fifth thing that I want you to think about, the fifth tip here, is leveraging resources properly. So I kind of touched in it on the all users review. And when we go through, I want you to make sure that you actually come through and understand how you have served up resources, whether they are on the resources tab, whether they're on loan templates, whether they are in the actual loans themselves when it comes to resources. I find that sometimes administrators will get lost in the volumes of choices that can be made and the pivots that the business makes. Sometimes you have changes within an organization that really create confusing situations for who needs access to what. And unfortunately, sometimes there's shortcuts that are made, and you have folks that are part of multiple user groups, and they end up having way more access to resources than they're supposed to. So those are things that you want to keep your eye on and making sure that you're responsibly watching who's got access to what resource. Now, real quick, down in system administration, if you're not used to using settings reports, I would highly encourage that you do that and make sure that when you're creating that settings report, you select the choice for your user groups, and then you can define all of this information, get it into your Excel spreadsheet, and really delegate this information decision-making back to the people who have the authority and have the capacity to understand what are they supposed to be given in terms of the members of the user group relative to what resources they're supposed to have. Number 6, I mentioned maintenance a few times in this video, and I want to make sure you understand everything that you do requires maintenance. So that means when the business decides to make changes, you have to keep up with those changes. So number 6 here is actually keeping up with those changes. It's hard. I get it. It's really, really hard, which is why I brought up the settings reports. Hopefully you're using that to stay on track with these changes. And then most importantly, as the business is going, making sure that you're keeping good notes, good maintenance notes of what is getting updated for which purpose, and if it's got a bookend in terms of when it should be re-reviewed to see if it's still appropriate for those members to have access to the resources that you've defined in their user groups. And the last and 7th tip here that I want to really express to you is the mistake that people make is not building to scale. So again, some good examples here are building those onesie twosie user groups, and then you're caught in that repetitive cycle of now you're trapped in that cycle, and that's a problem. Or said the other way, you build groups too generalized, and that gives you this scaling problem of now you can't get into the micro groups that you need because they already have access to stuff that they really shouldn't have access to anymore. And how do you unwind that? So in this video, hopefully I've been able to give you some really good, strong recommendations of how to go through the top 7 things that I come across, and I hope they've been helpful for you in your user groups. Again, I would strongly encourage, if you don't really know where to start, what I would tell you to do is go down to System Administration, go into Settings Reports, run those settings reports, and maybe even if you want to run one at a time, you can come in and just change this to user group, and you can come over and just run one of these at a time to really have an understanding of what you have in each tab, and then you can review that information to have some decisions that make the most sense for you. And if you ever need any help, please reach out to us. You can always find us at Mastering Encompass, or reach out to us here through this channel, and we'll catch you on the next video. Thank you.